Hi, I'm Seth Isaacson with Rock Island Auction Company, here today with my friend and fellow fine arms historian, Connor Fitzgerald. We're going to talk to you today about a beautiful and historic French sporting gun from the Norman R. Blanc collection.
Norman R. Blanc was the famous collector of fine European and historic firearms and collected guns dating back to the 1500s all the way to the 1900s, including this famous and historic gun from Permé à Paris that was owned by Simon Bolivar, the liberator of South America.
Bolivar was born in 1783 in Caracas into an aristocratic family, and then was actually educated in Europe, primarily in Spain, in the early 19th century. During that period, Napoleon, of course, is raging across Europe, including going to war with Spain, and that provides Bolivar the opportunity to return to South America and help lead the Spanish colonies to independence.
And that's exactly the interesting point, because he was born into an aristocratic family and then becomes the liberator of South America. That is actually quite the important point.
Yeah, it's one of the exciting aspects of who he is. I mean, his life story, of course, has been famous ever since because of all the romance and the drama. And That's part of it, is that he goes from an aristocratic family to basically being, his father dies when he's young.
Yes.
So he's raised by, I believe, an uncle and sent to Europe. I mean, that's a whole big arc to then come.
And he has an experience in Europe where he meets Humboldt, the famous philosopher. And he has other experiences in the Napoleonic era in Paris. And then he brings that back with him to South America and becomes that great liberator, the great hero of Latin America.
Yeah, and like Napoleon, he has a whole series of really exciting military victories over the Spanish royalists that helps liberate all these individual, what we now think of as individual countries, but back then were all Spanish colonies.
Right, and becomes Gran Colombia. And from there, the history becomes even more intriguing because there was people who were for him and against him, people who supported him, and there was tensions, an assassination attempt.
And this gun dates to 1822. We know that from the inscriptions on the inside of the locks, which places it right during that tumultuous period.
Absolutely, and that's the most important point about this gun, is that this was presented to him by the Marquis de Lafayette, the great, helped Washington in the American Revolution, became Washington's essentially adopted son. And these three men, were the basic founders of, liberty in the New World, the Western Hemisphere, and democracy that we know today.
Yeah, and they separated the New World from the Old World.
They did.
So historically, all of North and South America have been conquered essentially and controlled, at least on the map, by European,
correct,
royal families, whereas Washington and Bolivar separated them
absolutely
from those European
families. So for this gun to be given to Bolivar with a pair of pistols by the Marquis de Lafayette is a really significant historical thing indeed.
Absolutely. This beautiful gun by Permé of Paris is just one of only a very small number of Bolivar firearms known in existence. And nobody has worked with more of those that I'm aware of than Connor Fitzgerald. So I would love to hear Connor kind of place this within that historical context and within the collector's market of how this gun is so special.
Well, this gun and a pair of pistols were presented to Bolivar by the Marquis de Lafayette during his trip to the United States in 1824-25. He came over as a hero of the American Revolution and was feted by every state and every city he visited. And it was during this time period that this gun and a pair of pistols were sent down to Latin America, to South America, to Bogota, to be given to the other great hero of independence, Simon Bolivar.
So you worked with the other famous pair of pistols that were presented by Lafayette to Bolivar.
Yes.
So those are locked up. They're behind museum glass now, right?
They are. In fact, there's another pair of pistols as well. There was the pair of pistols that he was given by the Marquis de Lafayette together with this gun, but there was a pair of pistols that he acquired in Paris in about 1805 that are also in the same collection down in Caracas. So this gun is probably the last Bolivar gun in private hands. And
it's the only long gun. The other two are both pairs of Boutet pistols.
That's
so
correct.
all 3 case sets are French, which is interesting.
Correct.
And the French are kind of the high art firearms of this period in
Absolutely.
continental Europe. And of course, Bolivar is inspired by French revolutionary ideals and brought those
Absolutely.
back down to South America. So that makes this really cool.
Absolutely. This is a very famous gun in the sense that this is the only one that is a sporting gun. So this was something that Bolivar would have used privately for his own use, as opposed to perhaps a campaign set of guns or a presentation set of pistols. This is a gun that he'd use out in the field, hunting, for bird, for food, for pleasure. This is a personal gun.
And that connects directly to this beautiful cased French sporting gun. Because if you look at it, the theme throughout these beautiful silver mounts all kind of connect to the Caledonian boar hunt, which is this epic tale from Greek history. And of course, connects to Artemis, who appears right here on the fore end cap. Then you've got Meleager, the hero of the hunt. And then you've got Artemis again back here on the heel. But then you've also just got all these other beautiful hunting motifs, mostly connecting back to wild boar hunting.
That's beautiful.
So,
Gorgeous carving. Beautiful work there.
yeah, absolutely beautiful throughout and in really, really nice condition. And then you've got, of course, the maker's signature in gold along the top of the barrel rib and on both lock plates. I mean, just everywhere you look on this gun, it's absolutely gorgeous.
It's exquisite. I mean, this is a gun that is made for someone who is extremely important. This isn't just a very good gun.
Correct.
This takes it to another extreme. This takes it to another level. These are all silver mounts, finely carved wood. This is a gun of like the highest caliber indeed.
Absolutely. Just an absolute work of art as much as it is a firearm and a beautiful presentation piece. And that kind of connects us back. The presentation piece aspect of it takes us back to the case.
Yes.
Which the case provides an important part of this history for this gun because it tells us exactly what happened to it after it left Bolivar's hands.
Yes, indeed. And it's a sad story that he passed away in 1830, but that the gun was given by his mistress to Ricardo Illingworth, like that pair of pistols, both to him, and he took them back to England with him in about 1835. Ricardo Illingworth was a famous friend of Bolivar's and a financial advisor. His brother, Juan Illingworth, was an admiral in Bolivar's navy and later in the Ecuadorian navy. Both brothers were very famous in Caracas and in Gran Colombia. They were like perhaps behind the scenes, most especially Ricardo, as opposed to the brother who was the military man. But Ricardo was like the influential friend and helper, a confidant of Bolivar and Manuel Sanz.
Now, if I'm remembering correctly, he even raised like 800 English mercenaries or something like that and brought them over to directly help Bolivar's cause. So he's bringing over English trained soldiers to fight for the cause.
Post-Napoleonic War, these men that he would have brought over were serious veterans of battles throughout Europe.
Absolutely. So Illingworth took this beautiful gun back to England. And then what happens with it?
Well, it descended in his family until 1962, when the gun was sold through the famous author and firearms historian W. Keith Neal, who then sold the gun to Norman R. Blank.
Who was a close friend of Neal, who
It was, yes.
we've seen all kinds of beautiful letters between the two of them referring to each other as friends. It's been kind of one of the fun things about the Blank collection is how
Absolutely.
much documentation has been included.
Correct.
And there's important documentation about this specific gun from Illingworth's family, correct?
Absolutely. It refers to the gun directly, and it also refers to Illingworth as being a friend of Bolivar's. That's crucial. I think that's very important. From one of the most famous gun makers in Paris, Permet à Paris, to the Marquis de Lafayette, to Simon Bolivar, the liberator of South America, to his mistress, Dona Manuela Sanz, to Ricardo Illingworth, through his family, to W. Keith Neal, to Norman R. Blank.
And now to whoever buys it at auction. And what a tremendous opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just a treat just to even get to see this gun in person and to work with it and to catalog it.
Yes,
I can't imagine what it's going to be like for the person who successfully wins this piece.
absolutely. Touching this gun is going back to the 1820s to one of the most famous time periods in history.
Yeah, into the height of Bolivar's power.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's an
Absolutely.
incredible piece. It's going to be available in our upcoming premier firearms auction. Definitely check out the catalog so you can read all the details, all the finer points of the history that we couldn't possibly go through here today. And definitely come down to Bedford, Texas, and seize the opportunity to see this gun in person so you can study it and appreciate it for all of its fine details.
It will speak to you.
Absolutely.